The coroner's court rules all 39 victims in the 2012 Lamma ferry crash unlawfully killed. A domestic helper is charged with child abuse after a 4-month-old baby remains in critical condition following a brain surgery. And Japan's ex-Prime Minister Shinzo Abe's killer gets life in prison. Good evening, you're watching Cable News, I'm Quentin Yan. In an inquest into the 2012 Lamma ferry crash, the coroner's court has ruled that all 39 victims were unlawfully killed in one of Hong Kong's worst maritime disasters. The verdict has also concluded the shipbuilding company made a deliberate design choice not to install a watertight door on the sunken ferry. Jimmy Liu has the details.
Several family members of the victims, including survivor Philip Chiu, whose sister was killed in the crash, and Marine Assistant Director Chen Si-yin, attended the hearing. The verdict, delayed 3 times, came after an inquest summoning 84 witnesses, though not all testified, with some having difficulties recalling decades-old events. Concluding her findings, Coroner Monica Chow said the court had adopted the principle of balance of probabilities regarding proof. Noting the captains of the 2 colliding vessels were criminally convicted and found with negligence, she ruled that all 39 deaths were unlawful killings. The maritime disaster happened on October 1, 2012, when the Lamma ferry was carrying HK Electric employees and their families to watch the National Day fireworks at Victoria Harbour. It collided with the Sea-Smooth catamaran off Lamma Island and eventually sank within 118 seconds. A major question during the inquest was about whether Lamma had been missing a watertight door, a feature that prevents water from rushing in if the vessel is damaged. Lawyers representing the victims' families questioned whether Ken Low, a director of the company that built Lamma had tried to cover up an installation mistake. Low denied that was the case. In her verdict, Chow described Low as an honest and reliable witness, though she said he had misunderstood the regulatory standard that he claimed guided the decision not to install the watertight door. Even so, she accepted his explanation that the shipyard had made a conscious choice not to include a door, and that the decision was made jointly with the Singaporean design contractor. The court's oral verdict will continue tomorrow on other key inquiries, including Lamma stability calculations and its annual inspections. Jamie Liu, Cable News.
2 domestic helpers are under arrest, with one of them being charged with child abuse involving a 4-month-old infant who is in serious condition with signs of suspected shaken baby syndrome. Police also found bruises on the baby and his 16-month-old brother. Evelyn Bai reports.
The infant is currently in the intensive care unit after brain surgery and remains in critical condition. The suspected abuse came to light after Prince of Wales Hospital alerted police to the baby's injuries, including bleeding in his brain and the back of his eye. Police said the injuries were suspected to have been caused by external force, with symptoms in line with shaken baby syndrome. Officers reviewed surveillance camera inside home in Shengshui's Cui King village, but did not see clear evidence of severe abuse. The children's parents were not at home when the alleged abuse happened. Based on the review of footage and professional medical assessment, police believe the 28-year-old helper ill-treated the 4-month-old in the household in the wee hours of Sunday and suspected she also harmed the 16-month-old sibling. She will appear in Family Magistrates' Court on Thursday for ill-treatment or neglect by those in charge of a child or young person. The other helper, aged 45, is being held for further investigation. Evelyn Bai, Cable News.
The High Court has dismissed activist Tonya Chow's bid to throw out her prosecution, clearing the way for her national security trial to begin tomorrow. Chow, a former vice chairwoman of Hong Kong Alliance, now dissolved for upholding subversive agendas, will be tried alongside 2 former colleagues. In a written ruling, the court dismissed the application Chow filed last November, which argued the prosecution's case was too vague. Her lawyers had contended the indictment did not specify the illegal means allegedly used to pursue an end to the leadership of the Communist Party of China. The court ruled that the prosecution had provided sufficient and reasonable information for the defendants to understand the charges. It stated that advocating an end to the party's leadership is undoubtedly unconstitutional. Whether such advocacy meets the unlawful means required for the offense was noted as a central issue for the trial to determine. The court also dismissed Chow's other arguments, including claims of overlapping charges and an abuse of judicial process. Chow is charged alongside the group's former chairman, Lee Chok-yan and Albert Ho. All three are accused of inciting subversion of state power between July 2020 and September 2021. Hong Kongers are bracing for another cold night as a cold weather warning is currently in force. While residents suited up for a cold weather alert this morning, temperatures started slightly milder than forecast at 14 to 15 degrees. But the cold quickly intensified, and by midday, temperatures across the territory were generally 3 to 5 degrees lower than yesterday's levels. The observatory said the sudden chill stems from an intense winter monsoon over southern China and a broad band of clouds covering Guangdong. It forecasts low of 11 to 12 degrees in the coming days, with outlying areas several degrees colder. Meanwhile, the Labor Department has issued an urgent reminder to employers and workers to brace for the temperature drop. A Japanese court has sentenced the assassin of former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe to life in prison, concluding a historic trial that exposed the country's critical security failures and troubling ties between politics and religious groups. Best Learn has more.
The Nara District Court handed down the sentence to 45-year-old Tatsuya Yamagami today. Prosecutors have sought life imprisonment, calling the 2022 assassination an extremely grave incident that is unprecedented in post-war history, while the defense argued for a sentence of 20 years or less, citing Yamagami's tragic background as a victim of religious exploitation. Yamagami shot Abe with a homemade gun during a campaign speech in Nara City on the 8th of July in 2022. The former prime minister died hours later. During the trial, Yamagami stated his motive was a grudge against the Unification Church, a South Korean-based group he blamed for bankrupting his family through excessive donations. He targeted Abe because he believed the former leader was a prominent supporter of the church. The assassination sent shockwaves through Japan, where gun violence is exceptionally rare, and triggered a seismic political scandal. Government investigations revealed extensive links between the Unification Church and lawmakers from Abe's Liberal Democratic Party, leading to a public backlash, a cabinet reshuffle, and new laws to regulate such groups. Best Learn Cable News.
A South Korean court today sentenced former Prime Minister Han Duck-soo to 23 years in prison for his role in ex-President Yoon Suk-yeol's short-lived martial law declaration back in December 2024. The Seoul Central District Court ruled that Han was guilty of helping to stage a fake cabinet meeting to push through the emergency measure, calling it a top-down insurrection that threatened democracy. The judge said Han ignored his duty as a prime minister, risking a slide back to dictatorship by compromising citizens' rights. Han denied knowing Yoon's full plans, but was detained immediately amid fears of evidence tampering. Han, 76, is the first from Yoon's team convicted on these charges. It is also the first time in constitutional history that a former prime minister has been taken into custody in court. Han retains the right to appeal to the Supreme Court. United States President Donald Trump is heading into the World Economic Forum in Switzerland with a lot of meetings lined up to discuss Greenland. He said NATO is going to be very happy with what he works out, but refused to say how far he will go to acquire the Arctic island. Jimmy Liu reports.
Speaking after ramping up threats to take over the self-ruling territory controlled by Denmark, a NATO ally, Trump renewed his criticism of the transatlantic alliance, but was confident to reach a deal.
I think that we will work something out where NATO is going to be very happy and where we're going to be very happy. But we need it for security purposes. We need it for national security and even world security. It's very important.
How far are you willing to go to acquire Greenland?
You'll find out.
Meanwhile, Trump spelled out his ambitions in AI-generated images, including one where he, Vice President J.D. Vance, and Secretary of State Marco Rubio hoist a U.S. flag on Greenland. Trump also said he had spoken to NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte, telling him there was no going back on his goal to control Greenland. Separately, Trump leaked messages, including from French President Emmanuel Macron, who questioned what Trump was doing on Greenland. Macron suggested an emergency meeting of G7 leaders in Paris after the Davos gathering, but Trump turned it down. Speaking at the Davos Forum in a pair of sunnies due to broken blood vessels in the eye, Macron took a thinly veiled swipe at Trump's foreign policy. He said the U.S. is aiming to weaken and subordinate Europe with trade pressures and new tariffs that are fundamentally unacceptable. The French president warned of a world without rules and said it is not the time for new imperialism or new colonialism. In face of Trump's terror threats over Greenland, the European Parliament is planning to hold off on approving the trade agreement reached between the European Union and the U.S. in July. Jamie Liu, Cable News.
Just as Spain began its three-day national mourning for the Sunday deadly train wreck, two more train accidents rocked the country, including a commuter train derailment near Barcelona on Tuesday that killed the driver and injured at least 37 others. Meanwhile, the death toll from the Sunday high-speed train collision in the nation's south has risen to 42. Evelyn Bai reports.
Local officials reported that on Tuesday night, a train struck an retaining wall which fell onto the track due to heavy rain in Gelida, about 35 minutes from Barcelona. Dozens of ambulances and 38 firefighting units were dispatched, evacuating the injured and conducting a sweep of the area to rule out any further victims. The driver was killed, with most injuries trapped in the front carriages. The commuter service was used by thousands of people every day, traveling south between Gelida and Sant Sadurní l'Anoia. On the same day, another train on the Barcelona commuter network suffered an exile derailment due to a fallen rock on the track. No injuries have been reported. Rail traffic on the affected section was suspended. The incident came as intense eastern storms battered northeastern Spain. As for Sunday's high-speed derailment and collision in southern Spain, which killed at least 42 people and injured more than 100, investigators carried on with on-site searches. Amid 3 days of national mourning, King Philip VI and Queen Letizia visited the crash site on Tuesday and later went to hospitals to see the injured. Evelyn Bai, Cable News.
Now let's take a look at the stock market. The Hang Seng Index closed 97 points higher. Top active stocks of the day: Alibaba was up $3.50. Tencent was up $1.50. SMIC was up $2.75, while Meituan was down 5 cents. Foreign exchange against the Hong Kong dollar: Euro 9.13, Japanese yen 49.39. Onto the weather now. It will be cloudy, cold in the morning and at night. Temperatures will range between 11 and 14 degrees in the urban areas and will rise progressively early next week. And that's our news tonight. I'm Quentin Yan. Thank you for watching. Good night.